Oh, yeah, everybody. You know what time it is. It is the Enough to Keep Going podcast, episode number 56. Tonight, we're going to do it a little old school, I think. It's just me, Osiris Prime, your host, and my co host tonight is Mr. Agasicles. Agasicles, how's it going?
That's going good, man. How about you?
It's good. Had a good weekend. Nice long weekend. Had a 4-day weekend, so that was good.
Ah, good, good,
Yeah.
good.
So, like I mentioned, it's just me and Agasicles tonight. Unfortunately, DB couldn't make it tonight. As a wise man once said, life finds a way. And I'm going to add to screw things up. So he's off taking care of things. Swiss has off tonight, so he's just going to take a break. And I was off yesterday. Actually, I had a bow out from yesterday's deep dive, which it looked like it was pretty interesting. But we're gonna, just be two of us, kind of like the old CAG days. And let's get started. First up, we would normally have somebody report out on their Let's Play, but unfortunately that was DB, so he can't do that. He was playing the NHL 19 beta. That's hockey for you people that don't know what NHL is, National Hockey League. I was going to try to get into it because I think it was a free beta, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance. So we'll hopefully hear from him next week. He'll report out on that. Later on, we'll hear from my guest, please. We're going to kind of pick what he plays. I guess we kind of did, but we'll get to that later. So let's start off on what we've been playing. So I'll start with me since I guess Cleese is doing some social media stuff right now. First up on the Switch, I only played one Switch game this past week, which is kind of amazing, I know. But it is Rocket League. As usual, that's my go-to game. Used to be Call of Duty back in the day, actually for quite a while. And then I got Rocket League as my go-to now. You can go in there, play, quick matches like 5 minutes maybe at the most. So it's a quick fun game that you can get into. Been doing the ranked play, so you can do ranked or you can do kind of just like a free for all where there's like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 different modes. There's just regular 3-on-3, 2-on-2. I think there's 1-on-1, and then they actually have this is the unranked, and then there's like hockey you can do and basketball. So that's pretty cool. But I had been doing that since I had got the game, and now I switched over to the rank play, which you can only do 3-on-3. There's a 3-on-3, 2-on-2, and I think maybe a 1-on-1. And then there's like another variant of the 3-on-3. I forgot what it's called, but I've been doing those. So I just do the 3-on-3, and then whatever the variant is, just kind of you can pick which modes you want, and you just hit play, and then it'll match you up with somebody. So I've been doing that, and that kind of ties into their season. They have seasons every quarter or so, or maybe 2 months. They change it out, and then you just like win stuff. You can little decals for your car, and little toppers and hats and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's nice. And this is the first time I started doing the ranked this season, which I think is 5 or 6. I can't remember right now. That they started out now, and I think once this one ends, I believe maybe they'll do one more season like this. But I know they're doing like a battle pass kind of a thing, like they do in Fortnite and other kind of shooting games like that. So they're supposed to do a rocket pass, which is going to work out the same way. You buy the pass for X amount of money. I don't know if they've said yet. Probably $10. That's what it usually is. Maybe a little less. Who knows? So work out the same way. You buy the pass, and then as you progress, you just unlock different things. So I don't know if, because they're doing that now, I don't know if they're going to have like these special occasions. Like during the summer, they had like a summer beach theme where you can like win, like a beach ball topper, or they actually have like the trail behind your car. Can be different things, and that was like sand, I think, or something this time around. So I don't know if they're going to keep doing those, because there is a free part of the Rocket Pass also. Kind of like the battle pass, where you can still unlock stuff, but I don't think you'll be able to unlock as much as if you buy the battle pass. So we'll see how that works out in the future, but it's probably gonna start this fall, I would assume. So I've been going through that. That was one other thing I was going to say about Rocket League. I forgot now. Oh, so I've been playing lately ranked, and there have been a couple times, and I totally forgot this happens, but there's a couple times where I had to like kick out of the game because I had to go do something, or I had to go run out or whatever. And what I didn't realize what happens, and this happened a few months ago, and I forgot about this, but if you do it too many times, they actually lock you out of the game for like, this time it was like 5 minutes or something. So I was like, come on, man, really? I mean, it's not like I was doing it on purpose. I wasn't just like rage quitting or anything. So it kind of sucks, but
Well, Well, this is a problem that's becoming inherent in some of these systems, right? And one of the things I want to talk about a little bit tonight is about commitment and communities, right? And how, I mean, you're doing it. It's one of the things I want to talk to you about, like rallying around these communities that then, in my mind, become tightly coupled and impacted by the design of the game. And one of the things that has occurred is that from the Destiny era, right, we came up with this brilliant design implementation of no pauses allowed, right, which drives me nuts to this day, right? And of course, Destiny came along at a point shortly after my first kid, shortly after both of my two children were born, and I'm like, I'm a dad. Like, when you give me a game that I can't pause, I cannot play that during the waking hours that the kids are awake, right? Yeah. So, and like you mentioned, I also got into Rocket League a few weeks ago. I guess I played a little bit on PlayStation, but when it became available on Switch, there became two platforms I could play on. And yeah, and I'm like, so I can't, when you're in multiplayer, if you're offline or you're only playing with bots, I think it's okay, but definitely when you're online, like you can't walk away to use the restroom without the game like punishing you for it.
Yeah, that was another thing. I didn't even think about that because that hasn't happened in a while. And it seems like a really short time. Like if you just walk away and leave it like sitting for a while,
right?
And it's just like a minute or two maybe, and usually it's like maybe 5 minutes or something. Nothing more than 5 minutes. But this one was like super short. I was like, what the heck? I just like turned. It was like I turned around and came back, and it was like, kicked me out for no movement or something. Whatever it says. I don't know.
Right.
It's just kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, just that I think even one time I might have even got disconnected because my like internet dropped or something. And then when I went back in, I was like, I'm punished for 5 minutes. I can't play. Matter of fact, I don't think I could play any of the multiplayer games, not even the unranked stuff. So I mean, I was like, come on, man, I can't do anything.
Well, right, and I think it was this game. It may have been something else that I was playing that did something similar, where I was like on my phone for like 2 minutes, like on Twitter, and like nothing was going on. I think I may have actually gotten booted for a game for being idle.
Yeah.
And again, I get it. I get that, historically there's been a problem with you pop into a game, you load a level, you're looking at a person who you think is supposed to be playing the game with you, and the person is like away. I'm like, so then give us like an away from controller or away from keyboard status or something we can set. Right? I mean, just maybe it may have been Splatoon actually. Last year that has a similar system. I don't know. The whole thing's just, I think, very much overly.
Over. Yeah, I get the punishment type of thing. If you're doing an online thing, you don't want people just rage quitting all the time. So
right.
I don't. I think it's kind of excessive though.
Right.
Anyway, how about you? Let's see. Your first one here is Metro. You've been playing.
Yeah. So before I get to mine, I'm gonna ambush you with this idea that I came up with today. That in an effort to, so I'm standing at my standing workstation. If you've watched like the last few podcasts, this is happening every podcast. I'm standing at I'm at my standing workstation for the month, and I have a floor pad, but the webcam is slightly at an angle, so I have to figure out like just the right way to angle the floor mat, so that I'm not standing on a stone slab, basically. But at any rate, the question, the philosophy, the internalizing, the navel gazing, as DBQ would accuse me of, that I've been going through is, and I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to try and get through this topic without you feeling like I'm shooting darts your way, because that's not my intention. It's really a thing that I'm struggling with trying to understand, because I always kind of keep an eye on us as gamers and look for changes, right, and self-observe myself as well. To have a discussion about who we are as gamers, so that I understand how that like feeds into the show and can tell when like the shows like maybe should change, right, from the formats that we have. So your gameplay style, right, your content that you've been involved in is very much kind of orienting around where I see like the current generation of gamers orienting around. It seems to be a focus on a small number of games, competitive ranked play, like you mentioned, and then understanding, like, at a very, very, very deep level, all of the systems that are involved in those games. So my two primary questions for at least a part of the discussion that I want to get through tonight is: do you and I guess my question, my impression is that has to have a cost, right? It's at the cost of not playing other things, and therefore not discovering other things, or maybe being exposed to other things. A part of my question, I guess the real crux of my question is really, is that a gameplay style, really a gamer life, right, that you are finding more attractive now? Or do you feel like this is where the industry has left you, and is this partially a result of not as much content being on Xbox One as there was on 3? Because were you on PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360?
I was on 360.
Okay. Yeah, so is there less content of varied games and genres on Xbox One, and that's kind of forced you and cordoned you down this lane? Or is this a style of gamer life that has become more attractive to you?
Well, I guess it's kind of hard to answer, because just my play style in general is obviously, as you've seen, these last few years, is I'll take a game, no matter what it is, like what genre or whatever, and I'll just like drill into it until I'm like totally tired of it. And that could be a week, maybe 2 weeks. That could be 3 years. Who knows? I mean, Call of Duty I'd been playing up until last year, for the past, basically since Modern Warfare had came out. So, and pretty much every iteration, after that, I had been playing on that religiously every year. Even, when it went out of style, technically, and that's more of the, the kind of community kind of just kind of poo-pooed, Call of Duty for a longest time. And even still a little bit today, it's not as bad. But, I kept going. I just enjoyed the game. And then I actually reached a point where, I hit a Call of Duty where I was just like, I just can't get into this one. I don't like it anymore. And I dropped it, and I've pretty much dropped it for the past couple of years now. And, something else got my attention. That was PUBG. Well, that was Rocket League technically. And then PUBG after that. And I guess it was kind of a combination of, this is cool because it's a shooter, obviously PUBG, and even Fortnite to a lesser extent. I don't dive into that one as deep as I have PUBG. Just another shooter, and a combination of being a shooter, but like you mentioned, Xbox One, especially this past year, there really hasn't been anything I wanted to play, whatsoever. So I think that's kind of that was part of a driving force too behind everything. So where it was kind of leading me into, but hold on.
Yes, sir.
But on the counterpoint,
yeah,
the reason I brought up the report out and the Let's Play stuff is because I wanted to start getting into other things other than just PUBG and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
I kind of want to force myself to do that.
Yeah, because I remember when you pitched that concept and we were kicking around and trying to like mold and form and sculpt it into what it was actually going to be in execution. I remember us having the discussion that it felt very much like the thing that we used to do on the old Casual Adult Gamers podcast, which was that rotation of like co-hosts would assign, kind of the same thing, right? You would pitch 3 games. Back then they were generally like new games, or at least games that you hadn't played. I think that was a rule set of that, and it was, hey, I'm going to offer up 3 games that I either in my library and I haven't played, or I'm willing to buy, and tell me which one. And then we would play it. Back then we would play it for a month. And you're right, absolutely. We often talk the cool effect of that was that it, in a lot of cases, those co-hosts would pick things for you that were outside your comfort zone. Like, that's the only way that you guys got me to play Outlast, because I would have never played that game, and I'm still psychologically scarred from that experience, right? But that was awesome, and I think it was you guys who got me to play Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance as well, which is a game that I actually, and that was the other thing for me is it wound up forcing me to complete those games, because otherwise I'm just not like a rabid completionist.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you, has the E2KG Plays Picks with Z's, Pro-
Let's see. Going back to the
program.
'90s,
Pro-
X and Z's.
program has that. I mean, do you have? Uh, I'm trying to ask this in a certain way without sounding insulting. I'm asking this because I have to go back and look at the list to remember what you guys have forced me to play. Because now it's only for 2 weeks at a time, and we're not necessarily pushing ourselves to completion. But like,
Yeah.
do you have like in your mind like a Rolodex of like those games that you've been forced to play on the Plays Picks? And I mean, and are you feeling good that they forced you out of your wheelhouse and to experience some things that are not Rocket League, PUBG, or Fortnite / No Man's Sky?
Yeah.
Slash
Yeah.
Paladins?
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it. The games I've played. The last couple, I think I've done kind of more retro games, but before those, when I was picking more modern games within a few years, I mean, I'm glad I picked that. Like even what was that racing game? Now I can't even remember now. The Ubisoft one, The Crew. That was pretty. I mean, it was a pretty decent game. I liked it, for what it was. So I mean, I didn't have any problems with it. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely been enjoying the games I picked. Borderlands, which I did play in the past technically, but it was on PC. I never played it on the console, so I was able to play it on console because of the games with gold. It's got it free on there. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely been enjoying the games I've been picking. We've been. I think the last few we've kind of been having fun with each other. Just kind of picking these goofy things, but I do want to get to that point again where picking things that either I haven't played in a very long time or that I've just never played. So I want to kind of get to that point again.
No, it's good to know, and it's not it's not me entirely trying to throw rocks at you. A little bit of it is because I'm kind of going through the same a parallel or an alternate version of that myself, where when I mean I think we all know the tale, right? That my Xbox 360 Elite broke down, Red Ring of Death, in 2010, and I just moved and just bought a house, and I was like, I'm not paying Microsoft another $300-400 for another one of these things. I think I'm just going to get rid of this. I had just moved and I had just divested myself of all of my gaming desktops that I had built, feeling that laptops were suitable gaming platforms at the time, and instead of getting another 360, I went and bought kind of a higher end gaming laptop and went more so down the PC lane. But the problem has been that, multiplayer, in my opinion, on PC has always had a problem with cheating. And so I haven't really been a big multiplayer person for the last 8 years. And I'm trying to work and find my way back. Circa 2018, flash forward, we have all of these games that are oriented around community. They're not even like the multiplayer things that we experience in the 360 age. They're about doing what you're doing, which is you get involved in a game and you kind of stick with it, and the added thing is you become part of a community. Now, in console generation 7, that was different because your community was Xbox Live, right? Your community was PlayStation Network, such as it was. I wouldn't call 7th generation PSN a community fabric by any means, but that's what your community was. Now there are these games that branch across multiple platforms, and it's that game is almost its own platform. So we have this whole thing of games as a service, games as a platform, I would argue. So in order to find a place to exist, I had a task this week that I tweeted about this a little bit. That said, pick a special game. Pick one game that you're going to set above the others, and stick to it, deep dive into it, make a commitment, and join a community and participate in it. So I've been going through down selecting and trying to figure out what those are. I've been thinking about things like onboarding, where is it easy to onboard, where is it hard to onboard. I had been playing Fortnite on PC for a little bit, and live streamed or game captured some of the Save the World mode to get my feet wet. Got online, found some cool people to play with in multiplayer who weren't like flipped out because I was like one of the 8 people on the planet who hadn't played Fortnite. So it was enjoyable. But now that was kind of test drive time, and I'm still kind of doing some test driving. But now it's like one of the things I've done this month, which maybe we'll talk about later, is I've set some set days and times of the week that I'm going to do live streams. So this month and the month of, and I'm going to rotate that monthly because I hate having the same schedule all the time. But this month in the month of August, I'm doing live streams at 4 a.m. Eastern on Mondays and 11 p.m. Eastern on Monday nights. I also decided that, well, what I'm going to do for multiplayer is I'm going to designate some times and days where that's going to be like my community multiplayer game window. So the first one is tomorrow morning. And so it's just, and that's another thing I've taken into account is like trying to figure out is, where are there communities and where are there communities that are not toxic? So, so it's been interesting watching you go through this journey, and then watching like DB's approach to it, where he kind of runs in and like slaps some high fives with the community and then runs back out, right? And me, who's like doesn't want to make any commitment to anyone. So, the three of us in particular have been doing this together for a very long time. So I just thought that was an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, it's interesting because before when I was playing, even on the 360, when I was playing these multiplayer games like COD and not Call of Duty, Battlefield to a little lesser extent, I would play with just totally random people, and I pretty much just kept it that way. Every once in a while, I might play with some of the CAG people, which was was super fun, especially near the end of the 360 lifetime. A lot of Battlefield. That's when I played a lot of Battlefields with the CAG guys, and then when I flipped over to the Xbox One, a lot of those guys then switched right away. So I was kind of just on my own, and even like playing with randoms, like nobody would talk like at all, or if I'm assuming they're in parties or they're just not, like no one talks. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. So I'm just used to the chatter all the time. So then when like Rocket League and even PUBG came along, maybe not Rocket League, but PUBG and Fortnite. I actively went out and looked, and I mentioned this before. Looking for groups and the clubs thing is actually really cool on the Xbox. You can, look for groups and clubs, and those people can put all kind of tags and hashtags whatever in their description of their groups and stuff, and and it pans out really well. I've found a ton of people, really cool guys and girls, women that I've played with, and they're not jerks and idiots and all this, what you used to see all the time before. So even No Man's Sky, I've people I haven't, that maybe I started out playing PUBG with or Fortnite. All of a sudden I'm getting invites from them saying, hey, let's play this game. So it's really cool. I'm really glad I started doing that because at least for me it's a lot more fun when you're playing with somebody, especially in these PUBG type of games, because it's you have to work as a team in PUBG, otherwise you're dead right away.
Well, and I think that's what's finally kind of bringing me out of my shell is we are hitting a nadir now where there's this large center of gravity around co-op, right? So it's such a paradox. Like I don't get like how the internet in particular and online gaming has become so toxic, but at the same time, what devs are giving us are games that force us to play together and work together, right? It's not, there's not a bunch of Call of Duties coming out where it's all competitive deathmatch, right? It seems like that age has kind of come and gone, and now a lot of these things are about teams, and yes, lots of times people ignore them, but like I can't, like of those games that I've played, like I think most of them you always spawn in squads, right? Fortnite, what was the one we were playing? Battlefront, and like every time I see a game, like I don't see a game that's that's blaring about its PvP and its one-on-one deathmatch. It's all about co-op and squads, and that type of collaboration and interactivity.
Yeah, and I think Battlefield's actually taking that a step further now, where you're going to be rewarded a lot more if you're in that squad and doing things together with the upcoming World War II or Battlefield V, I should say, or 5, whatever they're calling it. They're going to give certain specific rewards for each. Mr. DBQ Hams has joined us. It looks like. I think he's setting up here.
Surprise guest!
Look at that. We thought you lost you for tonight.
No, I'm coming in hot. So, but go ahead, keep talking.
So
right.
Wait, did the Rainbow Bridge just open, and did Heimdall just send you down from Asgard? Because that's what it feels like.
Exploded there.
It's been that bad of a podcast. You guys have been just hoping that I would show up.
No.
Wait, Prime. He's gonna do a superhero landing. He's gonna do a superhero landing.
funny because I was just watching Thor Ragnarok this weekend, so
There we go.
it all ties together. No, well, actually, we kind of turned this, I guess, into a deep dive episode, sort of, where we're talking about just kind of the co-op gaming that we've been doing lately. Because I had been mentioning, I was playing Rocket League as my first game, and just how our gameplay has evolved, over the past few years and a few generations, I guess. So I was just mentioning Battlefield, how they're going to start rewarding you. It looks like the game has come out, the newest one, for playing in a squad and playing together. You'll get, I'm assuming, some kind of perks and stuff, special perks for actually participating in that thing. So yeah, that's all I was going to say about that.
No, I think that's a really interesting. Right, I'm sorry to jump in the middle of it all, but
okay.
I think it is an interesting dynamic of it's not just us getting older and looking for social games, but there are a lot of mechanisms being built into games, right? And Battlefield's had squads for a long point in time, but the fact that Battlefield 1, you had squad boosts that would give you active XP, like in Battlefront 2, you were more rewarded for playing with a squad than playing with your friends because it was designed to keep you playing together. And I remember some of the comments coming out of E3 or technically EA Play related to kind of the boosts and the incentives to play in squads there.
Yeah, and even with Call of Duty coming up, we'll get that Battle Royale mode, which, like I mentioned, with PUBG, I mean, you have to play as a team. Otherwise, you're just, you're dead if you try to do lone wolf. It's not like regular Call of Duty where you can just, run around if you want to. And yeah, you could probably get a good amount of kills, but if you're doing a Battle Royale game, it's like a whole different animal. So we'll see how that turns out. Gasicles, did you have anything else, or did you want to jump into your?
Yeah, I can jump into my first game. I'm gonna do a little business on air here. This is one of these times where we let the viewers and listeners hear what's behind the curtain. So topical discussion when it pertains to us and our gamer experience, I feel like is fair game for the GX show. So I don't think that's necessarily deep dive. I think deep dive is like news oriented like conversation, but this I felt like was free game because this is about us and how we play games and how it's like impacts our lives, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a deep dive into our gaming.
Yes,
so.
yeah.
And another way, you can see it another way. You can spin it another way.
Okay, you got me. So, Metroid Last Light. This is a series, really, that I feel like is totally slept on by the games industry. Metro Last Light may have gotten one award at the VGAs each year. I think this was a 2013 game that it showed up on PC. 2014 when it showed up on consoles. But it's nothing short of amazing. Like, it's theatrical representation and graphics quality. So this is a development team that's very much on par with Crytek. But I feel like what these guys do... I feel like what Crytek does is brute force and trying to hammer your PC, whereas I feel like what these guys do is a little more artistic. The acting quality, and this is a thing that I feel like is kind of lost maybe in North America. We sometimes don't give as deep a nod toward foreign films and things that are not spoken in our native language. This was localized for English, and I don't really know if the actors are Russian, but it's difficult for us to necessarily capture and feel all the emoting that might be coming through somebody speaking in a Russian accent. So I've really enjoyed my time playing Metro Last Light. It was a really enjoyable chunk too because Metro Last Light is very stingy with ammunition. Not as stingy as Stalker, but pretty stingy. But I guess I broke into the segment of the game where they're not as stingy with ammo, and I was like, oh, I have like 4 different weapons and lots of ammo. Like, batteries released, let me shoot everyone. So it was a really fun roller coaster kind of a ride section of Metro Last Light. Plays amazingly well, the graphics are gorgeous, and it's one of those things that I feel bad that I skipped. Amazingly, the game actually did come to PC and is available many times over, in remastered variants. But again, nobody really talks about it. So
does it have a pretty strong graphical pass on it now? I mean, it's it was something that pushed systems back, on PCs at least in terms of hardware. You're running it at 4K on your 1080 Does it feel like a more modern graphical update?
Yeah, I mean it's on par with anything that I've played this year, surely. And I'm not running it on one of the higher end systems. It's running on the. I played it most recently on the Orange Box back there, which is the 6 gigabyte 1060 Core i3 system. But everything is cranked up, so yeah, so it plays great.
Well, I'm sorry, you might have mentioned this when you were talking. I was trying to talk to DB there in the chat, but was this the second in the series? Or?
This is the second one. And this is,
Okay.
I mean, unfortunately I think part of the problem with uptake and people going back and revisiting the game is because the branding around it I feel like is pretty confusing because there's Metro 2033, Metro 2033 Redux, Metro Last Light, Metro Last Light Redux, Metro Redux, which combines. So it's definitely not a thing where you can walk into a storefront and like know what you should buy. And that probably definitely lends to the product confusion. So look, I own the games, and it sometimes it takes me a while, and I'm pretty sure I own something that I shouldn't have bought, right? Because I was confused about like the packaging, but yeah,
I remember Last Light being something more of an approachable game, a little bit not quite as heavy in a, I think the first one, 2033, leaned more into that stalker aspect in terms of, right? I mean, your bullets are still your currency, but it was a little more hardcore, at least from what I remember at the time.
Yeah, 2033, you spent a lot of time outside fighting the mutants, and it was very emasculating, right? This Metro Last Light, you spend a lot more time underground in the metro, fighting other humans. Like, it's really weird. Like the segment I just got done, like you're fighting Nazis, but then you also get like betrayed by other communists because they feel like your cell isn't really socialist, and so it's a crazy thing. But the other thing I should have mentioned is the other reason I'm playing this, and I really enjoyed my time with it, is because I'm ramping up, preparing for the drop of Metro Exodus, which is supposed to drop in February, along with every other video game on the planet being published in 2019. So hopefully I'll be able to see that one through the thicket of trees of other releases. And if not, it drops on PC and I'll be able to get back to it at some time. But
it's the new fall holiday season.
Right. And it's
at the end of the year.
And it's great. And it's great. Getting back to the way it used to be.
Yeah,
so I don't know. Now what I didn't do, and I'll reveal later in the show why I didn't do it and what I did instead of it. What I didn't do is I didn't buy Madden 19. But DBQ, you've been playing it. I know you guys. If I'm.
No, that's good. You don't have to step. That's I'm always happy to talk about anything I've been playing. But yes, so I talked about this last week, right? Like I was excited for. I've been playing Madden 18, kind of gearing up for 19, and ready for the EA Access 10-hour trial. And so I think I'm about 8 hours into that 10-hour trial. It dropped on Friday or Thursday night, maybe. So I've definitely been playing it, kind of chipping away at it every couple nights. Tried a little bit of the franchise. So lots of stuff to talk about. So franchise and mutts. So Madden Ultimate Team is kind of the fantasy football card collecting aspects where you open packs and gain cards, and those are your players, and you put together a roster of teams there. So that last year, I'm already a higher Madden Ultimate Team level than I was last year, in part because there's more to do as a solo player. So last year you had just kind of solo situational battles where it put you into a game situation and you had to, complete 3 passes in a row or prevent a score on this final drive of the game. And so those are fine, and it puts you through a number of those, and you would unlock cards or points and, coins to buy stuff. This year you've got those as well, and then it also has something called solo battles. And so it almost works, it's very similar to kind of the Madden mobile game with some head-to-head aspects there. So it'll take other people's teams and the computer will control them, but you'll go up against them. And so, which in some ways, you earn more XP doing that. It kind of diversifies it a little bit in terms of other people's teams. You can see kind of their overall rating. But one of the cool things that it does there is that it also, as you're seeing, like, in Madden, in the more recent Maddens, you can do the coach suggestions, right? You can choose a formation and a play to choose, but you can also get recommendations kind of by the computer in terms of the AI, and sometimes it's situational, and sometimes it's based on the data that Madden collects. So it'll say community users, 62% of the time this will stop a yards over 7, or they 53% success rate in getting less than 3 yards. But what it also does now is it also says, this player, Osiris Prime has frequently calls this play on 3rd and long. Right, so it starts to learn your patterns as well. So it forces you, forced me at least, to not just maybe choose my money play, because then it's going to learn that I'm doing that. So I'm varying my formations a little bit more. I'm trying to mix things up, but so I'm getting kind of that feedback of, it's not only what could be beneficial situational, but also what are the patterns that this user plays. So and again, it's kind of nice. They're short 3-minute quarters, so you can kind of speed through a game. And I've found that a little more engaging than just the simple kind of versus a computer churning out some of the gauntlet aspects. So there's Madden Ultimate Team. From reading about it and kind of diving into it now, there seems like the ramping up of microtransactions is not as steep this year as it was last year. So there's it's a little easier to gain some really good cards, or at least some pretty solid cards from the beginning, rather than having to feel like you need to kind of keep purchasing things. And last year it really was kind of money hungry from a lot of perspectives. Then on the franchise side, so after just playing Madden 18 on the franchise, this was the comment that, franchise is going to be, they've been adding things to it, but I think some of the things that they were touting that they added, like more presentation during the draft, basically, you get a little flashy draft stage where you see that. Also, it feels very much like some of the MLB The Show aspects, where if you're playing a franchise as the coach, you see him sitting in his office and making phone calls, right? That's their graphical flourish, is now you see a computer animated human sitting at a desk making trades. It doesn't really add anything to the game. It's a background, right? He paces back and forth sometimes. Ooh. So the one thing that it does on the franchise side, one of the things they touted was imported draft classes, so you can kind of user create a draft class, which is good and fine, and it adds to some variety that you can go back and recreate things if you wanted to. It provides a lot more user-driven content, which I think is good. It also changes. This is another spot where it's very similar to MLB The Show this year. Is it goes from what Madden has previously done with XP, where you can put it into a certain stat like awareness or zone defense or run blocking, into a scheme. So this player is a West Coast offense, or this player is a ground control offense. And so if you're putting the XP into the scheme, it ranks up a couple different stats, but it doesn't actually, you can't, in some ways you can't mid-max, because there were some problems last year with mid-maxing, where if anybody had a zone defense over 80 or 90, that they could intercept everything. So you can't really mid-max, but it also kind of it takes away some of the customization. So I think that could be, I ended up falling off of Madden, or of MLB The Show 18, because it took away some of that customization. So we'll see where this plays out. I think on the gameplay side, Agassicles, I know that you were talking about getting it. I don't know if you've downloaded it tonight yet, because the Hall of Fame version comes out, or the deluxe edition comes out tonight. The running feels a whole lot slower. They've added something called real player motion, so it's supposed to give you a little more physics as you're cutting in and out. It's certainly, turning and juking is a little sloshier. There's a little more momentum there than last year. It felt like it was the first year in the Frostbite engine, very video gamey, so you could do a lot more fast cuts there. I think, questions on Madden. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. I'm still kind of, if you're not a Madden Ultimate Team, or if that doesn't interest you, the franchise mode isn't a whole lot different than last year. I think there are some aspects to the running game and to the physics that after coming off of the NHL 19, which also uses real player motion, so this is something that's going into all of EA sports games this year. It feels a lot more, I don't know, responsive on hockey. Maybe it's just because it's on the ice, but I think that there are some people out there calling for some patching on the ground game. That there's still some graphical quirks there. So yes, I have been playing Madden Agasicles, and I've got a lots to talk about, and it's one of those where it is really interesting to play last year's version right up against this year's version, because while it looks beautiful and it plays really well, if you haven't played a Madden in a long time, this is far and away, it's better than last year when they moved to the new engine, which also makes sense. There's a ton of content in there. You're going to get a lot of football out of it, but if you played last year or the past couple years and you really just play franchise mode single player, I don't know that this is going to give you a whole lot of extra value to your dollar.
Do they have a story mode in here, like a FIFA?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So they do. Yeah. How about that for a genuine reaction? Yeah. So last year they added. It's called Long Shot. So they added it last year, and you follow kind of your down on your luck. It's the rebound football story. Last year it played out almost like a Telltale game. You had some choices, and you had like 3 different endings that you could ultimately get. This year you focus on both the characters are back, but you focus on the person who was the secondary character. And it's, I haven't played it yet. I've been reading about it. All the choices that you had in last year's game are gone. It pretty much takes you through a linear progression. And from what people are saying, it's relatively static in terms of, you play a little more football and not as many quick time events. But it's also kind of it's very kind of cliche-y in terms of, he's the hometown football coach that's struggling to get his shot back in the big time, right? I mean, so yes, so there is a story mode. It's not nearly as deep as FIFA's in terms of their story mode. One of the things that FIFA, that NHL does, that even NBA Live has done is, there's a create a player. You can play, you create your own player, choose a position, choose an archetype. Whether you're going through the story aspects or you're just creating a positional player, and then you're going to try to get drafted or signed on to a team, and you carry that through your career. Madden doesn't do that, right? I mean, Madden used to do that back in the 2000s, but they don't really have I suppose technically you could do that within a franchise mode and just play a single player and sim the defense or something like that. But really, there's not that type of kind of individualized player creation kind of career mode that a lot of other EA sports games have.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, just because I remember when I was playing 2K, NBA 2K, the single player was pretty involved. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff in there, and you can even train yourself, and bulk up or slim down, whatever you want to do, and it changes your stats. So
yeah, I think 2K is the kind of the gold standard for sports video game story modes and just even the depth of options.
Nice. I guess, Cleves, did you have any questions, comments on Madden?
No, unfortunately, no. I realize I may have done a bait and switch on you, but I won't be playing Madden 19 this year for some specific reasons. So, no questions at this time, Your Honor.
Well, then I will say that if what I said doesn't sway you, you're making the right choice by not playing it. Right? Okay. It's good football, but I don't know that if the Madden Ultimate Team stuff doesn't do it for you, you're fine, right?
Sure.
So if I have a moment, I'll quickly add in, since I did play a little bit of the NHL 19 beta, the other piece there. So that from last week, that was my quick assignment, and it was, there's a lot of depth there, even on the right coming from Madden to hockey. I used to know the rules of hockey pretty well. Played a lot of hockey video games back in the Super Nintendo Genesis days, but it's got a lot of modes. So not only are there a number of different career modes and franchise modes and online player modes, but hockey also, last year they added a threes, kind of a 3-on-3, more arcadey style. And then this year they've also added a ones, which is a 1v1v1 and kind of online.
So, so, I, so I didn't realize that when it cloudy headed, and when you were saying it, I should have realized it. So NHL 3-on-3 used to be a separate game, right?
I think that was a midway product, right? That came in it was part of like
the NFL Blitz.
NFL Blitz, and it was called, I don't remember what it was called, like Slapshot, or that's a hockey movie.
Right. Okay.
Right, but it was an arcade game. It was from Midway. It was a 3-on-3, and so this plays out kind of like that, right?
Okay.
I mean, playing it, you get a lot more big hits. Things are sped up a little bit.
So let me ask you, but because NFL Street was EA, so
okay, fact checking time, right? So
yeah,
yes, yep, we'll fact check it out. But yes, I think you're right. At some point in time, there was something like that. I think it's been a while.
There was Wayne Gretzky too, I think, which was more arcadey. I think that was 3-on-3, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember that was N64 days, right?
Yeah, that was further back. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But this thing that I'm talking about, that was NHL 3-on-3. This was it was like big burly body, like it was in the NFL Street style, where the player models were bulkier than. And it was spectacular and over the top, and it was on PlayStation. I mean, I still have it on PlayStation 3. So
yeah, I almost want to say that it was like Hits, like HITZ, something like that.
I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah, so something like that existed, and it existed last year. One of the things the beta did for it here is you could play. It's basically 3-on-3 online. Going back to playing co-op, right? From what the conversation I jumped in the middle of. I really enjoyed this game. I mean, I was shocked, and I say this kind of shocked, that it end up kind of you're matching. It's taking kind of the multiplayer game aspects that EA has done for other series, and throws it in a sports game. So I'm loaded up into a match made into a 3-on-3 match, and wearing my headset, I can hear other people. I can hear the other team talking. I could mute the other team. I could just talk to my teammates. There's even a mode where you could practice with just your team. So if you want to build a team and practice together, you can, practice there. And then you play through, and it ends up being, you get at the end of the match, I was terrible, by the way. I was really terrible, but I had fun. And it took me a while to remember, like, figuring out, okay, when do I body check? When can I try to do a poke check and trip them a little bit? And so there's some balance pieces, right? This really was a beta. There's some balance pieces with some of the poke check. But then you're thrown into the 3-on-3, and at the end, just like in Battlefront, just like in Battlefield, I get a player progression bar along the bottom. I get 25 points for finishing the game. I get 5 points for good defense. I get 15 points for a goal, right? And so you level up, and as you level up, you guess what you get from EA? You get gym bags. So, right, they're not loot boxes, they're gym bags. But again, I gotta say, it was relatively satisfying, because what you get is you get gear for your player, right? It is not, they are simply cosmetic. You get celebrations at the end of a goal. You get alternative uniforms. You get, different things like that. So I was playing up against somebody who had been playing for a while. He had like a suit and tie was his uniform, right? I mean, it's kind of just some fun, goofy stuff. It's kind of what they're talking about in the vein of Battlefield 5, right? That, historical accuracy be damned, that they're going to have some face paint and a variety of colors and things like that. So it ended up, I mean, that whole part there was something I really wasn't expecting in terms of creating a player and playing through. I just figured I'd play some hockey against the computer, get a sense of how the skating felt. I played some NHL 18 last year with EA Access and the 10-hour trial. I put maybe in 2 hours or so. The skating feels really responsive here, and there's a lot of comments out online and some videos about the skating last year was a lot more floaty. So I think in terms of this is the really interesting part, right? For as big as football is, and for as much money as Madden brings in, it is a relatively scaled back platform, that there's not, you get exhibition, you get long shot, you get your story mode, you get a franchise, and you get your ultimate team. There's not a whole lot more there, and hockey, it really seems to, for me, it was really surprising on how much content was there in that game. So it'll be something when it comes out on EA Access. Hockey's coming out, NHL's coming out, I think late September. I'm definitely going to check it back out again, and I'll probably talk about it here, because it intrigued me enough. So this is one of those game assignments, gentlemen, that you pulled me outside of my norm, and now I kind of want to explore a little bit more.
And just a quick rundown on my fact check. So you're right. NHL Hits I thought that there was an NHL game under the EA Sports Big branding, but EA Sports Big had NFL Street, NBA Street was one of the things I'd forgotten about, but it also included games like SSX. I mean, that was and FIFA Street was another one that they had.
I totally forgot about FIFA Street.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So thanks for letting me ramble on about some sports games, gentlemen. So what else did I miss? What else have you guys talked about? What games are left? I'm assuming, Osiris, you talked about No Man's Sky, Agasicles. What else have you been playing?
I did not actually talk about No Man's Sky.
Oh, no. Oh, look at that. We're out of time. Sorry.
What time is it? 9? Oh, yeah, we got 10 minutes. I'm going to take the rest of the show. No, I'll talk real quick about it as much as I can. So, I did. Before that, I did play a little bit of PUBG, just a few matches here and there. But, yeah, most of my time has been on No Man's Sky. I don't remember if I mentioned last week or not. So I got a freighter, and I got a couple of frigates that you're able to buy, basically. Although I was reading online at one point, I thought someone said you get one for free, like the first one, but I had to buy mine.
So the thing I want to ask you, and I'm sorry I'm barging right in, but this is a burning question that I've had since you guys had this question. Have you guys gained capital ships through combat? Because my understanding is that when you warp in, right, to a new location, if you engage with the fighter ships, pirates that immediately try and take you out, and you successfully defeat them, then any capital ships within the vicinity may call you aboard and offer you the opportunity to buy their ship or other ships that they're in possession of.
I haven't, but I have read the same thing where, like, if you come into a system, there'll be another group of freighters and frigates that are getting attacked, and if you help them out, I think, you're supposed to be able to buy them, or I think, like I mentioned, one of them said you can just get it for free, but I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard about the free one. I know that I've heard some people talking on the podcast about, that you can buy it at maybe a discounted price. I think that was also part of a previous update, because when I played back in March, that was definitely something I did. I came in, my fighter took out a bunch of other fighters harassing a freighter. They called me aboard, and the alien says, "I'm tired of this, and would you like to take over?" But I had nowhere near the money available to buy his freighter.
Nice. Yeah. So hopefully, I'm gonna have to look out for that, because every time I come into a system, and I've warped now just a few times, but like as soon as you get into the system, there's like all kinds of other people that start appearing with you. So I'll have to check that out. And I've been attacked a few times, just me personally, but I've never seen anybody else getting attacked. So I'll have to. I don't know. I must be lucky or something, I guess, or unlucky, because I'm not getting that opportunity. So I've sent my own frigates. So your freighter always stays like kind of by you, and you can send your frigates out to do whatever missions that the one navigator guy gives you. So I've done it 3 times now. The first time I brought back, I think as far as I can tell right now, it only brings back items, and then those items you can turn around and sell. I don't know if you can actually use them yet, if you want to keep them, but the one thing I got was like, I think like $1.5 million when I sold it. So you do get some pretty pricey items. So I did that the first time. The second time, I got like a distress call saying, "Hey, we're getting attacked, and we've got critical damage. So do you want us to keep going, or do you want us to come back?" And so at that point, I had 2 frigates, so I just called them both back because I didn't want to have them destroyed. Sent them out again. Same thing happened. I was like, you know what, screw it. Just man up and go out there and put on your big boy pants and get the job done. But I lost one, unfortunately, and the other guy came back, and I've got an item now. I haven't had a chance to go and try to sell it to see if I get the same amount or less, or what it was. So in the different missions you can send them out on, or like and you don't actually control it. You just send them out and they do their thing, and they're vary from an hour to I think like 2 hours. I saw like the longest one so far, but the first two I did were like an hour, and then the last one I did was like an hour and a half. So, and it's like real in game time. So you got to wait, an hour for it to go through, which is fine because you can, there's a ton of other stuff you can do. I got like 3 ships now, just regular, ships. I got like a fighter, a shuttle, and I just bought, I think it was some kind of hauler or something like that. I think they call it in the game. So, and the, obviously fighters, better at, fighting, and the shuttle, I'm not really, I don't know if the shuttle and the hauler are kind of the same because they kind of have the same amount of space. I'll have to look at the stats because you do have the stats of like damage and, shields and, attack power or whatever they call it in the game and stuff like that. So, they obviously do, various things. So I've done that. And I finally last night, or I think it was the night before actually, I found a planet that I can actually start to settle on. It's not trying to kill me. It's not like freezing cold or super hot or toxic or poisonous or, all this other stuff that they throw at you. It took me a few jumps, but I found, this home planet. So I've started actually building my base. That's where I'm at now. I'm starting to build my base. So you can build your base anywhere you want now. And I'm doing that. And as you're building your base, I think I mentioned this last week too, that I had read it from last week, but now I'm actually doing it. As you build your base up, it starts to unlock different quests that you do for your base. And, you go out and find things and you can, you just get more, rooms and things you can unlock to build up your base. Excuse me. So I'm starting to do that. And it's probably gonna take me a while, I'm sure, because I got to gather the resources, kind of like in Minecraft, gather the resources to build everything up. So, but yeah, I'm having, I can keep going, but I'll stop. But no, I'm having a blast, and kind of like I mentioned with, I guess, earlier, I actually had somebody message me and say, hey, can I jump in and play? And I hadn't played with this guy with, in a few months. It's been like 4, 5, 6 months that I was playing with this guy, and we actually started playing on PUBG. So it's a totally different game, and I found that guy on just one of the looking for groups things. So it's pretty cool that we're able to play and do stuff again. I went to his world or his universe or however this thing works. So in that instance, just whatever I do, whether I gather and the experience I get to keep, but I can't like do base building and stuff like that, or at least I don't think I can. But it's been a pretty cool experience so far, and I'm just chugging away. Hopefully I can get this base built up and kind of like work out from there. And I think after I do that, I'm going to start doing a little bit more on the frigates. I'm going to try to buy some more so I can send them out and do stuff like that. So along with my when you're on planets, you can find like alien artifacts and stuff like that. You can get some pretty decent stuff to sell also from there. So we'll see. Once again, I'm just like totally diving into this game. I've been reading like all the forums that I can. I've been on Reddit and GameFAQs. I haven't been on GameFAQs in I don't know how long, and I actually went back onto there to see if I could find anything on there. So I'm having a blast on this game. It's really pulling me in. So any questions or comments, or I can keep talking if you want to learn more about No Man's Sky. Otherwise, I guess, please, if you want to tell us what you've been playing next. It looks like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, and I continue to be excited with what I'm hearing from No Man's Sky. I will probably get it on PC because I know SwissGuard did so and was kind of tacitly expecting me to. So I will definitely honor that pact and get it. It just wasn't first in my queue. So yeah, I played a little bit of Left 4 Dead. We're getting short on time, so I'm just gonna kind of quickly blow by that. I stumbled upon like the Steam stats on my Android app for Steam. Which I didn't realize tracked my total number of hours that I'd played in games. So Left 4 Dead is the one Steam game that I've spent the most time in at 38 hours, which isn't a lot of time. I just don't like commit to any one game. So I've kind of made a decent amount of progress. So I live streamed a bunch of it to Mixer. But I guess the interesting thing is I'm really bad about Left 4 Dead doesn't have a standard campaign model, so it doesn't do game saves. It's on you to remember, and all I want to do is I just want to know that I've successfly completed every map in Left 4 Dead at least once. But to do that, you have to manually track what maps you've completed, or at least what map you're on. So I do that via a little text note that I keep in my little games folder on my desktop. But the problem is, of course, if I rebuild the desktop, I lose that note, and that's what's happened like the last several years. Is every time I've moved and re-imaged the machine or upgraded it and blown it away and done a fresh install of Windows, I always lose track of where I am. So I made a pretty good clip. But But what I also wanted to convey is the reason I'm not playing Madden 19 connects to the earlier conversation, Prime, you and I had about communities and commitment. And I was going to buy Madden 19 last night when I got done with my Wipeout Omega Collection live stream. And there's a certain algorithm that I'm using to pick what I'm going to buy. And I wanted to go back and see if Madden was still on the front page of Metacritic. It was, and specifically the PlayStation 4 version, it was not. So, when I don't see anything on the front page of Metacritic that I'm interested in, I then go to the front page of the console that I'm currently playing on, which right now is PC. So when I went to the front page of PC, I found a game that I was interested in. I decided I wasn't going to dumpster dive and go off and compare that against Madden. I just decided to go with that game. So what I wound up buying instead of Madden 19 is a game called Gunheart. I haven't had a chance to play it, but it is a first-person shooter RPG co-op game on PC that also has VR functionality. So when we talk about community and commitment, also during the week I had been juggling a list of community games and down selecting to what I was going to play. I only tweeted that I was making this selection. I didn't tweet what games they were because I didn't want to hear a lot of input from people like, oh, you'll never be able to onboard that game and ranked is too competitive. You'll never get it done. You should wait and play something new. And I, thanks, I didn't ask for your opinion, right? So I had actually been spooling up to try and dive in and become part of the community in Rainbow Six Siege, which, like I said, I just don't want to talk very loudly about that because I've heard that there's a problem with onboarding, but I wanted to test it out for myself. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with this game, Gunheart, just because, like I said, it's recently released, came out in June, has positive reviews on Steam. It's not very highly ranked on Metacritic, but for me, since my 2K NBA 2K16 experience, I now put Steam user reviews ahead of Metacritic scores. So this is the game that I'm going to try and onboard with tomorrow. I'm going to get up early in the morning, play a little bit of it, try and get the mechanics down, and then try and see who's out there for multiplayer. Early Wednesday mornings are going to be my first multiplayer community game spot. My second multiplayer community game spot is going to be Thursday evenings. So I'm going to try and kind of get started and get my character built and get through the basics tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to hopefully maybe not find anyone, or maybe I will, because maybe some people overseas are playing, but get my feet wet tomorrow and then take off further on Thursday night. So that's kind of going to be my replacement for Madden 19. Not really a replacement, but a numerical replacement.
I'm excited. I'm really curious about this. So I'm interested in it for two reasons, and I'm looking at it now. One is that it has drop-in co-op gameplay, right? Like, I think that is, go back to something like Borderlands or other things where you can just kind of pop in and pop out, and especially in a VR setting, I don't know that happens. The game also has free locomotion, which to me in a VR shooter is key. So it's not kind of the teleporting aspect. I really like that as the immersion. So I guess there's a third thing. And the third thing is it's coming out for PSVR and it uses the aim controller. So there's another interesting piece that you've now put this on my radar. So thank you.
Any indication if it's going to be crossplay?
This is just the review for the Vive one, so I haven't seen anything yet.
So we should keep an eye on that. One of the other interesting aspects of it is, of course, this may. So I'm not planning. So during my multiplayer community time slots, I'm not going to play in VR. But I am curious about the VR aspect of it because it may suit Gray, Lock 3491, and I's and my VR series that we record and play on Sunday nights. So it may fill a couple of slots. Was one of the reasons why I found it so interesting. I think it was actually on my wish list. So yeah.
Looks pretty interesting. I'd be interested in the VR just to see, because it looks like it's pretty quick, pretty fast. I don't know what like the VR aspect is, what it actually is, or if it's something like a separate game or mini game or something within the world.
I think it's. I my gut is telling me it's like Star Trek Bridge Crew, where you can play either. I'm very curious. So when you look at the recommended specs for the thing, they recommend a GTX 1070, which scared me a little because starting tomorrow, I want to initiate play on this 1060 machine back here. Then I thought about it just as we've been talking about it. I'm pretty sure that 1070 is you got to have that to play the VR. But so they just released a performance patch. Was the other big news on the store page. So the question is was there a performance problem in VR, or will the game run fine on a GTX 1060? So I will be checking that out tomorrow and have a chance to maybe talk about it next week.
So it says there's cross-platform support for VR and non-VR players.
Okay.
It doesn't say anything about PC versus PlayStation VR. So,
And there's a characterization of the world that we live in that we have to talk about VR and non-VR as cross-platform.
Yep. But it does run both on Oculus and on Vive, and there's cross-platform there.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so for the sake of time, we're gonna jump into the next thing here. So real quick, DB, we'll have you go first. What are you gonna be playing up here in the next coming week?
I am going to be playing Madden. Chances are, although I may end up backing out of this and not buying Madden 19. So we'll see. So that will be the interesting pieces where I land by the time it launches on Friday.
All right, and for myself, I'll be playing No Man's Sky, obviously. I'll also be playing, and I mentioned this I think last week, a couple weeks ago. There's a Pokemon. There's a community day for Pokemon Go coming up here this weekend. So I'll be visiting some family. We'll be going out and doing that. And Mr. Gascles, what's your pick? And then if you want to go into what you will be playing here next for your picks.
Yeah, so I also want to mention, just back on Gunheart, that it also has support for Windows Mixed Reality, which is my current VR platform of choice. So that's available as well. Up next, Gunheart. Gunheart, and I'm going to be playing. And if I get around to it after that, I am queued up to play some Free Space 2 on PC as well, using my Logitech 3D Wing Commander. I think it's called Wing Commander. Logitech 3D Wingman joystick. So Free Space 2, of course, an old 1999, 2000 game that was a spin-off of the Descent Free Space, or Descent series, originally called Descent Free Space, and then when they did Free Space 2, they just called it Free Space. One of the seminal and greatest sci-fi space sims ever made. Fortunately, now made available through GOG, because when it was only available as a disc, it would sell for like hundreds of dollars. So I was very glad when it became available digitally a couple years ago. And for my picks, you guys have already selected this for me, so it's really just a matter of prioritization. What happened if viewers and listeners forgot? So we did a thing where I got too big for my britches, and I thought I could get a lot more done in a period of time than reality allowed for. And I was already queued up to play Battlefield 1, to revisit Battlefield 1 single player and multiplayer in preps for Battlefield 5 coming out this fall. And concurrently, I was tasked to revisit a Call of Duty installment in preps for Call of Duty Black Ops 4 dropping this fall as well. I wound up getting assigned Ghosts. So I've revisited Battlefield 1 single player. So it's up to you guys to vote me up to sequence next Battlefield 1 multiplayer, Call of Duty Ghost single player, or Call of Duty Ghost multiplayer. I'm ambivalent about which of those three, so task away.
So I will give you Mr. Swissguard's answer. Pick.
Okay.
So he said he would like you to play the Battlefield multiplayer, just so you can kind of compare the two, the contrast between the two single, and multiplayer.
Okay.
So, Mr. DBQ, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go that same direction as well, and to say to see how your training in the single player plays out in the multiplayer, and also I was just playing multiplayer with a couple friends maybe 2 weeks ago, and so there's still at least on Xbox there's still a pretty healthy community there. So, and as the least of the three platforms, that's probably a good sign that there's a good player base out there.
Yep. And I will make it unanimous with the Battlefield 1 multiplayer.
Okay.
So.
There we go. Thanks for keeping things simple.
There we go.
That's right. No ties or anything this week. So,
what platform are you going to be playing on? PC? Is that what you played? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, all these are for PC.
Okay.
All right, cool. So you'll report on that. Was that next week or week after? Next week, right? A week now?
I thought there were 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So that'll bring episode number 56 for Enough to Keep Going Gamer Xperience podcast to an end here. Come back next Monday for our deep dive, as we mentioned before, where we go through some news stories for the past week, and either go, talk about a little bit more on one particular story, or maybe kind of a theme of that story, or just pick a topic if there's nothing too interesting out. And then, of course, next Tuesday for the Enough to Keep Going Player Experience podcast, where we'll see episode number 57. And I don't know who's on what show next week. So unfortunately, my PC's freaking out, so I can't check that. But please join us next week for those two podcasts. And then looks like you got the entertainment podcast going again, I guess, Glees?
No. Yes.
Oh.
No, we did. So we just completed our last episode
okay.
of It's Another Thing, episode number 7. We put that in the can. That featured us closing out our discussion on Cloak and Dagger, because that season finale was just this past week, or 2 weeks, just this past week. It was only a 10 episode season. So we are actually on hiatus for roughly 2 more weeks until The Gifted drops on Fox with season 2. That series premieres September 25th. So sometime the last week of September, first week of October, we will be returning to action and continuing our coverage of short season format TV shows with myself and Mr. Dave Pecci.
Okay, cool. DB, any last words before we sign off for tonight?
No, thanks for letting me pop in the middle of it. Even if I didn't do my superhero landing, I'm glad to, as always, be talking with you gentlemen. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's nice to have you on here. And for myself, Mr. Osiris Prime, that is it for tonight. And hopefully you guys, pick some cool games to play during the week. And we will see you next time.